Good day, everyone. We are the second group that will discuss the administration of public fiscal, which includes the national and local government budgeting in the Philippines, the tax principles, theories, and policies, the economic aspect of public debt, which is the local and foreign, and discuss the government auditing policies and procedures.
Good day, everyone. I'm Maria Antoinette F. Galin, and together with Mr. Vincent Iliesca, we will be discussing the national and local government budgeting in the Philippines. So first, let us know what is a government budget means. A government budget is the financial plan of government for a given period, usually for a fiscal year, which shows what its resources are and how they will be generated and used over the fiscal period. The budget is the government's key instrument for promoting its socio-economic objectives. The government budget also refers to the income, expenditures, and sources of borrowings of the national government that are used to achieve national objectives, strategies, and programs. So why is government budgeting is important? Government budgeting is important because it enables the government to plan and manage its financial resources to support the implementation of various programs and projects that best promotes the development of the country. The decisions made in government budgets and how those decisions are implemented on the ground have a direct and transformative impact on people's life. Evidence shows that the best way to manage public funds efficiently and equitably is through budget systems that are transparent, inclusive, and monitored through strong independent oversight institutions. On the other hand, the lack of fiscal transparency and limited public participation and oversight undermine fiscal discipline, increase borrowing costs, undermine the efficiency of public services, and create opportunities for corruption and other leakages. So, when people have access to budget information, coupled with the skills and opportunities to participate in the budget process, the resulting engagement between government and citizens can lead to substantive improvements in governance and service delivery. As research shows, budget transparency, expenditure monitoring, and accountability can contribute to increases in spending towards and better results related to development goals. So, here are the major processes involved in national government budgeting. First is the budget preparation, followed by budget authorization. Next is budget execution, and last is the accountability. In budget preparation, it includes the budget call, citizens engagement, RDC consultations, program convergence, agency Tier 1 proposals, Tier 1 deliberations, budget priorities framework, agency Tier 2 proposals, Tier 2 deliberations, presentation to the President and the Cabinet, consolidation, validation, and confirmation, and last is the President's budget. In the next procedure, which is the budget authorization, it includes the House deliberation, Senate deliberation, bicameral deliberation, ratification and enrollment, and last is the enactment. The second to the last procedure is the budget execution, which includes the early procurement activities, budget program, allotment release, obligation, cash allocation, and the disbursement. And the last process is the accountability. Accountability includes the following: performance target, citizens engagement, monitoring and evaluation, agencies accountability reports, performance review, in-year reports, DBCC mid-year report, DBCC year-end report, and the audit. That's all for my report, and for the next discussion, may I call on Mr. Vincent Ilyaska.
My name is Vincent Talyaska. So today I'm gonna talk about the local government budgeting in the Philippines. So the first slide is local government budgeting in the Philippines stand as a pivotal driver of effective governance, playing a critical role in the delivery of public services and the advancement of local development. This report offers a comprehensive exploration of this process, guided by the robust regulatory framework set forth in the Local Government Code of 1991 or Republic Act 7160. So, local government budgeting in the Philippines is a crucial aspect of governance that plays a vital role in the effective delivery of public services and the promotion of local development. The budgeting process is guided by laws and regulations that aims to ensure transparency, accountability, and participatory governance at the local level. The primary legal framework for local government budget is Local Government Code of 1991 or the Republic Act number 7160. I'm gonna tackle about the key aspects of local government budgeting in the Philippines. So the first one is decentralization and local autonomy. So the Local Government Code empowers local government units (LGUs) such as provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays with a degree of autonomy. This allows them to formulate and implement their own budgets based on the needs and priorities of their constituents. A cornerstone of the Local Government Code, decentralization empowers local government units or LGUs such as provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays, or granting them autonomy to independently shape and execute budgets aligned with the distinctive needs and priorities of their constituents. So for number 2 is budgetary process. So the budgeting process follows a cycle that typically starts with the preparation of executive budget by the local chief executive or the mayor or the governor, the local development council or the LDC, and other mandated local planning bodies. Bodies play a role in the formulation of budget. So the budget goes through various stages, including preparation, submission, review, approval, and execution. Public hearings and conducted to ensure citizen participation in the budgetary process. So the dynamic budgeting process initiates with a formulation of the executive budget by the local chief executive, collaborative efforts with the local development council or the LDC, and other planning budgets ensure a comprehensive approach to budget creation. So the budget undergoes a meticulous cycle encompassing preparation, submission, review, approval, and execution. Public hearing stands a crucial junctures, fostering citizen engagement and transparency through the decision-making phases. For the third slide is I'm gonna discuss about the sources of local revenue and the internal revenue allotment. So LGUs have the authority to generate revenue through local taxes, fees, charges, and other incoming generation activities. Real property taxes, business taxes, and local fees are among the common revenue sources. So, a portion of internal revenue allotment from the national government is also allocated to LGUs to ensure they have a stable sourcing of funding. So LGUs exercise authority in revenue generation through diverse channels, including local taxation fees, charges, and incoming generating activities. Real property taxes, business taxes, and local fees represent common revenue streams. So, for the internal revenue allotment, the IRA is a constitutionally mandated share of the national taxes automatically allocated to LGUs. This to ensures that the local governments have a guaranteed source of funding to carry out their mandated functions. So the internal revenue allotment emerges as a financial arrangement constitutionally mandating a share of national taxes for LGUs. So for ensuring a stable and defendable funding source. So for the fourth slide, I'm gonna tackle about local development council and transparency and accountability. So the LDC is a key institution in the local budgeting process. It is responsible for formulating development plans and budgets, so ensuring the participation of civil society organizations and other stakeholders. So, at the heart of local governance, the LDC assumes a pivotal role in driving the budgeting process. So, tasked with formulating development plans and budgets. So it underscores the importance of involving civil society organizations and stakeholders in the decision-making process. So for transparency and accountability is LGUs are required to follow transparency and accountability measures in the budgeting process. This includes public disclosure of budget information, conducting public hearings, and providing opportunities for citizens to participate in budget discussions. So, upholding the principles of good governance, LGUs are mandated to maintain transparency and accountability throughout the budgeting life cycle. So, public disclosure of budget information coupled with well orchestrated public hearings provides avenues for citizen participation and scrutiny. Fifth slide, or my last of the report, is participatory governance and monitoring and evaluation. So, the local government code emphasizes the importance of citizen participations in local governance. LGUs are encouraged to involve their constituents in budgetary process to ensure that the budget reflects the needs and priorities of the community. So, enshrined in the local government code, participatory governance underscores the active involvement of citizens in the decision-making process. LGUs are encouraged to integrate constituents into the budgetary process, ensuring that the budget authentically mirrors community needs and priorities. For the monitoring and evaluation, LGUs are also mandated to establish monitoring and evaluation systems to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of budget implementation, Regular reporting and auditing mechanisms help to ensure proper financial management. To ensure fiscal prudence, LGUs are compelled to establish monitoring and evaluation systems. Regular reporting and auditing mechanisms act as a safeguard, facilitating effective financial management and accountability. My name is Vincent Villasia, and that's all my report. Thank you.
So, good day everyone. I'm Jobert Macedo, and let's move on in theories of public fiscal administration. So, first theory is traditional theory of fiscal federalism. So, the theory of fiscal federalism assumes that a federal system of government can be efficient and effective at solving problems government face today, such as unjust distribution of income, efficient and effective allocation of resources, and economic stability. So, economic stability and just distribution of income can be done by federal government because of its flexibility in dealing with these problems. Because states and localities are not equal in their income, federal government intervention is needed. Allocation of resources can be done effectively by states and local government as well, so that the federal or central government should be responsible for the economic stabilization and income redistribution, but the allocation of resources should be the responsibility of state and local government. So let's move on to the advantages and disadvantages of this theory. So the following are benefits of this fiscal decentralization. So first is regional and local differences can be taken into account. Next is lower planning and administrative costs. Next is competition among local government favors organization and political innovations, and more efficient politics as citizens have more influence. So let's move on to the disadvantages of this theory. So first disadvantage is lack of accountability of state and local government to constituents. Next is lack of availability of qualified staff. Next is the possibility for people to choose where to reside. Next, a certain degree of independence of the local government from the national government. And lastly is unavailability of infrastructure of public expenditure at the local level. So let's move on to next theory, which is new public management theory. So the new public management, which emerged in the 1980s, represented an attempt to make the public sector more business-like and to improve the efficiency of the government borrowed ideas and management models from the private sector. It emphasized the centrality of citizens who were the recipient of the services or customer to the public sector. NPM, or New Public Management System, also proposed a more decentralized control of resources and exploring other services delivery models to achieve better results, including a quasi-market structure where public and private services providers competed with each other in attempt to provide better and faster service. So let's move on to the last theory of public fiscal administration, which is the theory of new institutional economic. So NIE has attracted growing interest because it provides convincing explanation and prediction of how rules and law influence individual behavior and economic outcomes. Transaction costs and property rights are two main conceptual forces used in this theory to analyze the institution. NIE assumes that people are bounded in their cognitive capacity and rationality and live in a world with imperfect information. Therefore, transaction costs and property rights are never delineated completely by formal or informal institution. One particularly important insight from this theory is the elaborating of the traditional idea of public goods into the more realistic ideas of club goods. So the concept of club goods is an important one for housing, as many of the housing neighborhood resources that are subject to contestation, congestion, and depletion. In principle, be more efficiently allocated through club-like institution in which co-consumers and co-contributor to funding those resources. The rapid rise in popularity of gated communities, homeowners association, condominiums, and other forms of co-ownership challenges the traditional boundary between government and market in housing neighborhood management. let us find why this theories is relevant in public fiscal administration. So, in traditional theory of fiscal federalism, it is relevant today as it guides the distribution of taxing powers between central and regional governments. Considering their economic disparities and administrative efficiency, help in designing taxation policies that align with the traditional principle of fiscal federalism, ensuring optimal resources allocation and balanced development. So in new public management theory, it is applicable to our to the contemporary taxation policies by emphasizing the efficiency, accountability, and customer orientation. Implementing performance measurement, cost effectiveness, and transparency in tax administration aligns with NPM principle, fostering better public service delivery and management of financial resources. So in last theory, which is the NIE, it is crucial in shaping modern taxation policy by recognizing the impact of institutional arrangement on economic behavior. It is also helps on understanding how legal frameworks, social norms, and organizational structure influence tax compliance and enforcement, that helps policymakers design the effective and culturally sensitive taxation system that promote voluntary compliance and reduce evasion.
Good day everyone, I'm John Michel Asistio. So I'm going to discuss the principle of tax and tax policies. Principle of taxation is a fundamental aspect of government finance guided by various principles to ensure fairness, efficiency, and effectiveness. The principles of good taxation were formulated many years ago. In the Wealth of Nations in the year of 1776, Adam Smith argued that taxation should follow the four principles of fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency. Fairness in that taxation should be compatible with taxpayers' conditions, including their ability to pay in line with personal and family needs. Certainty should mean that taxpayers are clearly informed about why and how taxes are levied. The principle of tax, also known as principles of taxation, the main goal of this concept is to raise the revenue for the government. Among the primary uses of these taxes, developing the infrastructure, providing the goods services to the citizens, and develop the human capital. By adhering to this principle of taxation, emphasize the efficient that will be countenanced with a fair, transparent, to easily comply with efficient for generating a revenue to fund public services. Next slide, please. Principle of tax administration. It is a frequently heard complaint that tax administration laws are complex, confusing, and arbitrary. To some degree, this is probably unavoidable. Administration of a tax system must cover an enormous and diverse number of rules. Unlike the substantive laws of taxation, there is no basic principle of administration. According to the European Commission, tax administrations are tasked with implementing tax laws, interacting with taxpayers, and ensuring the correct amount of tax is collected. This involves dealing with taxpayers directly and overseeing the collection process to uphold compliance. A principle of tax administration, it aims to minimize the cost for both the government and the taxpayers. Therefore, the EU collects on average of 60% of the government revenue with significant variations. The administrative cooperation explains the other benefits of the internal market is that the EU and businesses have also the freedom to operate and invest across the national borders. A simplicity and certainty, the rule of tax should be clear, simple, and understandable for taxpayers. To anticipate tax consequences in advance to reduce unenthusiastic considerations. The example of principle of tax administration, which is the temporal organization. This will be making the law easier to understand for the taxpayer as well as for the administration, given that each tax obligation is based on a tax period with a subsequent possibility by concerning the elucidation through remittance of tax or information also. Next slide please. Operating cost of tax policy refers to the guidelines and principles established by government for the imposition and collection of taxes. It encompasses both microeconomic and macroeconomic aspects, with the former focusing on issues of fairness and efficiency in tax collection and the latter focusing on the overall quantity of taxes to be collected and its impact on economic activity. Reasons for operating cost of tax policy: to generate revenue. Taxation is the most important source of government revenue. Governments can use tax revenue to provide public services such as social security, healthcare, national defense, and education, changing the distribution of income and wealth. Taxation provides a means to redistribute economic resources towards those with low income or special needs. Tax revenue can be used for transfer payments such as welfare benefits. The operating cost of tax policy includes the two main components, the administrative cost and compliance cost. On the other hand, the administrative cost can be divided into direct and indirect administrative costs. Direct administrative cost is borne by the government, includes salaries or staff. Legislative enactment. Indirect administrative costs are borne by taxpayers and include costs of complying with tax requirements such as filling out forms and record keeping. For example, service costing set once sites on the company have to render unique average of over the total amount of services rendered. In summary, the operating costs be subjected to incurred by the government and compliance likewise costs borne by taxpayers. These costs are essential because of the considerations with a trustworthy when implementing and evaluating tax policies. The reason for generate the revenue which is used to finance a rise in public spending that leads to higher tax revenues, to provide a better source, enabling them to fund public services. This helps to address income inequality and promote social justice. Next slide, please. But not the least, which is the consumption tax policy. Consumption tax policies play a crucial role in shaping tax systems, influencing consumer behavior, promoting savings, and providing governments with a stable revenue source. Balancing efficiency, fairness, and economic incentives is essential in designing effective consumption tax systems. There are two types of consumption tax policy, which is the consumption taxes and also the efficiency and neutrality. Consumption taxes include sales taxes, value-added taxes or VAT, and excise taxes. Sales taxes and VATs typically apply broadly to goods and services, while excise taxes target specific products. Efficiency and neutrality. Consumption taxes are considered neutral and efficient sources of revenue as they do not significantly influence business investment decisions or individual choices to work. They can raise substantial revenue without hindering long-term growth prospects. A consumption tax policy is a tax system that applies to spending on goods and services rather than on income earned. This type of tax ensures that the tax code remains neutral concerning current and future spending patterns. Consumption taxes can take various forms including sale taxes and value-added taxes or VAT, and excise taxes. The purpose of consumption of tax policy is to generate the revenue for governments while minimizing distortions in economic activity. Consumption tax, this will be essential taxes for the individuals when they spend money as opposed to an income where individuals are taxed on what they earn. Suppose this concept there's a various form such as sales or value-added tax or VAT. The portion of consumption tax are often will be regressive, meaning they may impact lower income individuals more than higher income earners. It's because of the lower income households can spend a higher proportion of their income on consumption to ensure and encouraging a savings nor the investment. Efficiency and neutrality. An efficient tax system shall minimize the distortions in economic activities, ensuring that resources hence allocated optimally. It contributes for a long-term economic growth by allowing the market to function without significant interference from taxes. Therefore, it helps to minimize the distortion caused by taxes such as changes in supply and demand in tax-induced price changes by designing upon the system that are efficient, neutral, clear, and simple to vitalize compliance costs for the taxpayers here in our country. Thank you for listening.
Debt in the Philippines. Public debt is an obligation of a government, and although individuals are called upon in their capacity as taxpayers to provide funds for payment of interest and principal on the debt, their own property cannot be attached to meet the obligation if the government fails to do so. Public debt in the Philippines averaged 46.9% of GDP in the decade to 2022, below the Asia-Pacific regional average of 86% of GDP by 2022. Public debt in the Philippines stood at 60.9% of GDP. Within the BSP, the national government coordinates monetary policy and public debt management through a seat on the Monetary Board beyond the confines of the BSP. The government participates in macroeconomic coordination through the Board of the National Economic and Development Authority. It's called NEDA Board. The next one is the economic problem of the Philippines. The main economic problem issues in the Philippines include weak growth rates, high levels of corruption, excessive bureaucracy, underinvestment, infrastructure, and education, a split economy with a large informal sector and a small industrial sector, and a reliance on remittances from overseas Filipino workers for growth. There is also a debate between economic liberals who favor free trade economic, nationalists who favor protectionist measures. Improvements in fiscal and administrative performance of public institutions are crucial for better prospects for the Philippine economy. The main economic issues in the Philippines: inequality, poverty, subpar educational, healthcare access issues, foreign investment, and corruption. That's all po, sir. Thank you.
My name is Christian Ibanyel. So our topic is the economic aspect of public debt. So what is public debt? Public debt is sometimes also refers to as a government debt, reference to the total outstanding debt, bonds and other securities of the country government is often expressly as a ratio of gross domestic product or tinatawag na GDP. Public debt can be raised both internally and externally, where external debt is the debt owed to lender outside the country. Then the external debt is represent the government obligation to domestic lender. Public debt is an important source of resources for the government, financial public spending, and fill hole in the budget. Public debt is percentage of GDP is usually used as indicator of the ability of the government to meet its future obligation. So, to understand the effect of public debt on macroeconomic variables is the key policy question is the long history. An increasing in the debt can stem from the rise in the government expenditure, an increase in public investment, a reduction of tax revenue, or other fiscal change. While understand the impact of resulting increasing in debt on real GDP is essentially to public debt sustainable assessment. There is little consensus on its direction and magnitude. Public debt is sustainability analyzed are crucial for the IMF work member countries, assisting to disability of stability debt under stock scenario. They also aid designing fund program, determine the financial timing, policy choice, and the member of capacity to repay the fund. Understand how change the public debt impact to real GDP over short to medium terms essential for forward-looking assessment.
Good day everyone, my name is Romer Villalon and I will tackle for today is auditing policy. An audit policy defines account limits for a set of users of one or more resources. It comprises rules that define the limits of a policy and workflows to process violation after they occur. Audit scans use the criteria defined in an audit policy to evaluate whether violation have occurred in your organization. The second is, the auditor will be ensuring that the area they are auditing has a copy of the department policy and procedure manual. They will be checked to see if this policy and procedures are being updated each year. They will check to make sure that the department has an organizational chart and that the responsibilities are being delegated properly. The third is, government agency at all levels require the use of audits and auditors in order to help maintain public trust. The use of internal audits can help agencies meet accounting requirements and improve efficiency. External audits help agencies stay accountable when their finance are reviewed by an outside group. And that's all my report. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I'm Ilyana Marilia that will discuss the last topic for the administration of public fiscal, which is about the audit process. So, policies and procedures provide a framework for the internal audit department to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements, industry standards, and organization's policies. This ensures that the organization meets all legal requirements and avoids potential penalties or fines. It is the techniques, process, and methods that the auditors use to obtain reliable audit evidence, which enables them to gain a sound judgment about an organization's financial status. Audit procedures are conducted to help determine whether or not a company's financial statement is credible and factual. Audit procedures are performed in order to test financial statement assertions. Therefore, the first step in explaining an audit procedure is to identify the assertion that needs to be tested. For the overview and conduct of the audit process, it is divided into 4 phases, namely the audit management, audit execution, audit follow-up, and audit reporting. So let's proceed to the first phase, which is the audit engagement. Although every audit project is unique, the audit process is similar for most engagement and usually consists of several stages. Through these stages, it will determine ways to minimize risk and increase efficiencies within the area. Also, planning will develop an annual audit plan based on an overview of all pertinent information. Sources may include, but are not limited to, a risk assessment, internal and external evaluations, and management guidance. So for engagement, auditing department will schedule a meeting within the area head and the senior management of the process to be audited. Identify the scope and objectives of the audit, how long it is expected to last, and what responsibilities for all parties are in audit process. This includes the annual audit plan. The auditing department, by authorization of the President, annually establish a plan scheduled audits called the annual audit plan. The audit selected can relate to specific departments or area within the agency or to processes that are carried out across several different departments or areas. To maximize the use of their resource, a risk-based approach is adopted in drawing up the plan. Major risk factors are identified using different risk assessment criteria, and areas with the highest perceived risks are given high priority for audit. Audit requires good planning. Planning entails familiarization with the objectives, processes, risk and controls of the auditee and activity to be audited, and developing a strategy and approach in conducting the audit. It is the most important part of the audit as the success of an audit depends on how well it has been planned. So for the first phase of auditing process, it also involves document understanding of the program or project, determining the resource required for the audit and the target milestones or dates, developing the audit plan and audit program, and approval of the audit plan and audit work program. Next is audit execution. Execution of the audit is initiated with an entry conference to discuss the focus, requirements, and timeliness of the audit. It involves performing the audit techniques and procedures enumerated in the audit program to gather data and pieces of evidence to achieve the stated audit objectives. During audit execution, if the auditor finds a need to revise the audit program, the revision should be submitted to the IASD for approval. The director uses the audit program to supervise and monitor the progress of the audit and to check whether the team is generating sufficient and appropriate pieces of substantial evidence. At any point during the audit and during the conduct of the baseline assessment of the internal control system, when significant risks or issues arise, the auditor will prepare an interim report to the President to communicate findings, issues, and problems that may affect the conduct of the audit and may expose the organization to considerable risk. A summary of the interim report will be included in the audit report. Connecting to audit execution is the audit reporting. So, audit reporting represents the culmination of the audit execution and the associated analysis and consideration made during the audit. The audit report sets out the findings in appropriate format, which provides the pieces of evidence gathered to arrive the audit findings and recommendations. The draft report may be then finalized and presented to the President who decide on the distribution of the audit report based on the recommendation of the Audit Director. An executive summary should be prepared and addressed to the President. Follow-up reviews will be scheduled by the Audit Director during the annual audit plan preparation process. The Audit Director will develop the most effective method to perform follow-up reviews. So the last procedure will be the audit follow-up. Follow-up is a monitoring and feedback activity undertaken to ensure the extent and of preventive or corrective actions taken by the management to address the inadequacies identified during the audit. It aims to increase the probability that recommendations will be implemented. Auditing personnel who verify that items reported are resolved are implemented during the follow-up review process. They will issue individual follow-up reviews reports on the verification of implemented recommendations. If a significant number of the items reported are not resolved, this will be communicated to senior management for follow-up actions. So that's all for our report. Thank you for listening.